Welcome again to another episode. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I'm here for another rulebook read-along. Glad everybody could make it. I thought, since it was fresh in my mind, from having picked it up on Friday during the OSR Reddit Roundup, if you watched that stream, you might have noticed I came across the link that was posted by the folks over at Leyline Press that they were doing for a Buy Nothing Day, which I guess has something to do with the sort of opposite of, Black Friday. I don't know. Whatever the reason, they were giving away some stuff for free on their website. I went and grabbed it. I posted the links. Hopefully you had a chance to grab it, because I believe that Black Friday or Buy Nothing Friday link is dunzo. Is gone. But one of the things that they had was a Hexcrawl adventure for Old School Essentials, which sounds right up our alley, so I thought I would give it a chance. Hey, Walking the Path is here. Welcome, Walking the Path. Nice to see you. I don't have any programming notes that I can recall at the moment, so I'm just going to get to it. Here is the cover. I apologize in advance to Leyline Press for the name butchery that is about to take place. This is the Isle of Glaslyn, a Hexcrawl adventure for Old School Essentials by Panayotis. Panayotis. So apologies for that. Panayotis Lines or Linus and Alid Lawlor. Introduction. All eyes have turned to the Isle of Glaslyn. Within her ragged, mist-covered hills, a bounty of riches lies buried beneath the earth. Twisted veins of copper entwined with gold, which have filled men's hearts with greed. You begin at Caer Emrys, a small fort on the south of the isle, with mist-covered hills and great mountain peaks beyond. Lady Morgan watches over the fort and has many tasks for those with arms looking to aid in pacifying the land. All so far who have journeyed beyond the pale to this isle of ancient myth and nameless dread have never returned. On a technical, is it Caer or Caer? I don't know. Somebody fill me in if you know. Alright, so here's the intro. We're on this small island. We know that there are hills that are rich with minerals, but I'm assuming dangerous, because it is untamed wilderness. There is one safe spot, theoretically, a small fort, Caer Emrys, led by Lady Morgan, and she's looking for aid, and of course, okay, so, hey, Rich Hark Raider, pronounced like Caer. All right, good to know. I'll try to remember that for future pronunciations. So it's a standard-ish setup, right? Not too far different. Something like Keep on the Borderlands, or Horror on the Hill. Right? We have a place that is luring people in, but dangerous, and of course, like all these things, right? Capitalism says, hey, go forth and find these minerals, but they're dangerous. So capitalism also says, hey, we'll get adventurers to come in and do our pacifying for us so that we can take advantage of the bounties of nature. This is a hex map. I hate to skip ahead, but I want to see if we actually... There's the cover. So we didn't get hex map in the front of the book. Here we have a hex map. So it's a small island. I really like this. It's very pretty artwork here. This is at the very back of the module. 7 hexes arranged. Is that kind of hex flower style? I guess we have the central hex, the middle of the island, and the central hex is hex 7. We have, looks like the Caer Emrys is hex 2, directly south of that central location. I guess the hills, the main part of the hills, range from hexes, I guess 4, 5, and 6. Looks like there's some kind of hidden village there in area 4, or maybe it's just a forest village. There's some other kind of village in area 3, Area 1 is forest, but we can see there is indicated there's a road that goes to the forest, and then there's maybe there's a tower and what looks like a mine in Area 6, and then opposite of that, we also get a map of Caer Emrys. Since I'm here, why not read these descriptions? So we have the fort itself. Lady Morgan's Fort is a simple motte and bailey atop a hill looking over the village. Within is a large common room, guard room, bedchamber, guest bedchamber, kitchens, and privy. All right, so I find that's perfectly nice. I don't need a map of it unless there's something really interesting or they really want me to go in there and start digging around. I'm fine with that. If the party ever gets invited in there, I can just talk about maybe passing the guard room on the way to the common room. Presumably the bed chambers and guest chambers will be upstairs, and the kitchens and privy. I suppose the privy only if they ask for it, and of course the kitchens they probably wouldn't see unless they were really sneaking around. Other buildings that are marked: a trapper's cabin. This small log cabin with various animal pelts hanging outside it is the home of Tordrum the Trapper. A local tavern, because of course there's a local tavern, called Itchy Hole. The Itchy Hole Tavern is one large common room with a hearth and bar area. A sign with a symbol of a stag hangs outside. The roof constantly leaks. Menu: gut rot ale, bread and gruel, itchy straw beds, surprisingly good wine. Nice and simple. And look, here we're able to get everything we need about this place in that little paragraph. Maybe I could have said, do I need the tavern keeper's name? Maybe. Probably not. But really, give me the menu. Give me the basic layout. Right? It's just a large common room. Presumably, if you get a straw bed, maybe the beds are just in a corner. Right along the walls, perhaps. And then what do they have to eat, drink? It's all there. There is to one side a shrine to Lear, dead god of the seas. Stone shrine studded with seashells. Men's hearts have stopped in their throat in prayer to the dead god. Do so with reverence and fear. Men's hearts have stopped in their throat in prayer to the dead god. I guess this is suggesting that it could be some danger to that. In that case, I really like that flavor, but then I wonder, what's the flip side? What's the upside? So, okay, it's the god of the seas or the dead god of the seas. But it's nice that there's going to be this kind of flavorful, you could die just in prayer. Kind of like the god hears your prayer, but in a bad way. Oh, I see you, and oh, come to me. But maybe a hint of, you just doing it out of fear that you're going to get a shipwreck? Is there something a positive? You know, why are you even going to that shrine if just going there could potentially kill you? And why is Windows giving me the round circle of loading? I don't know. There's a statue of the Emperor. A statue of the Emperor decked in ceremonial armor stands watching over the dock. The statue is in poor condition and is ignored by the villagers. Okay, so this is something you could probably, I'm guessing you could interface in your campaign, right? Because here they don't say who the Emperor is. Presumably they don't, I mean, obviously the villagers don't care. They didn't name them, and this is an island that you could plop anywhere. So probably something you could, if you have an emperor in your world to whom this would fit. Otherwise, you could probably replace it with your, I guess, royalty of choice. And probably the big thing here is it's acknowledging, in a sense, that this could be part of a greater kingdom, but nobody here cares about it. Let's see. Nothing's here. Hey, Nothing. I think you're a fan of small maps. Why not have more smaller scale hexes? Hex 2 is partially forested. At that point, why not more hexes? Let's see. Hex 2. Looking here. So, yes. I think Nothing. You could certainly make not even a bad case of having multiple hexes, like, say, 1 mile hexes. Or 2 mile hexes. Something smaller. You absolutely could. I don't know if it would make a difference. So I get it's really how granular you want to get. If you want to have the town in 1 hex, the forest in another hex, it looks like there's some open ground in another hex, you could. It's really how are you going to use it? We'll have to read through and see what their plan is, because maybe if they are going to get super granular, then sure, there's a few of these that could look like they might benefit. Why is my lights blinking? Everything's blinking out here. What's going on with you? There you go. Steady on, light. Probably have to look at how they're working this stuff out. If we need that granularity. 6 mile hexes I think is great. Actually, I'm gonna do a whole video on this. 6 miles is great when you're pretty much moving through. If this is going to be where the adventure is, I would say zoom in. Something like Keep on the Borderlands, pretty much the whole thing fits really in one 6 mile hex. You could maybe, it's really small. When you actually count out the squares on their wilderness map and you think about how many miles there are, it's not that long. It's not that big. That fits all pretty much in one hex. I've talked about where my party's basically been adventuring in one hex. Depending on how you position the hex, I could maybe make it 2 hexes, but essentially it's maybe 1 to 3 hexes, depending on where I want to put the lines, essentially. But the hexes, it's all abstracted anyway, so who cares about the lines, right? So here, if the party's going to have lots of really zoomed in encounters and stuff, then and those variations in the terrain that you'll get to capture with, say, a 1 mile hex would make sense in that area 1. If you have 1 mile hexes, then those bits of road could be their own hex separate from the forest hexes if you wanted to divvy up that way. But it also might not matter if really you're just moving through to the next place. So I do love smaller maps though. I have no problem zooming in, but I think we'll see. I mean, we have to see. But I don't have a problem with this. It's very, very pretty. Part of it, I think, is from just the look of the map that they want to give it to, and part of it is also how they want it to proceed in terms of information and whatnot. Hey, Don Rossavelli's here. Hope you enjoyed your great turkey dinner. I did. Glad I'm back. Hey, happy to be back. Walking the Path had a good one. Awesome. Looks like everyone's had a great Thanksgiving for those of us who celebrated it. So we got our Statue of the Emperor. Let's see. Then the last building of note, and it's not all. There are some buildings that are left unmarked, which we could probably mark up ourselves if we wanted to. But the last marked building here is the Trader's Warehouse. This large warehouse stores various goods brought in by the harbor, mostly food, tools, and other mundane supplies. And they show a harbor here, but there actually is no note about the harbor. So I guess there's no, and maybe we'll read about it when we get back. But here they're not putting any kind of schedule or any kind of about any, say, shipping schedule, or if the players want to leave or how they get there by boat. Maybe we'll get that later. Whoops. All right. So now we're going to go through, and they put the hexes. It looks like they're just going in order 1 through 7. So coming back down here, that looks like we're getting a counterclockwise turn around the board. Interesting. I'm not sure why you would. It doesn't make a difference, but I might have just put 1 as Care Emrys, since that's where you're going to be starting, so why not start with that one as opposed to ticking off back here. Maybe they got a reason, maybe it's just where they wanted to do it. But anyway, unfortunately, I don't have a way to break out the map and the description side by side, but Hex 1 was that heavily forested area with a road that seemed to be running through it. The description is, well, first it's called Forested Hills. And the description is, twisted copses of broadleaf trees lead into a forested maze that even the hardiest of hunters dare to tread. And then we're rolling for an encounter. D6. Looks like there's an equal chance of anything happening. 1, a screeching emptiness, which is a very interesting phrase. 2, so just looking for this, we're not only getting potential monster encounters, but also geographical areas. So the first one is just emptiness. Second one is circle of 7 jagged stones. 2d4 blind pixies with oozing eyes of molten copper emerge if entered and mercilessly attack with sharpened stones. Wow, blind pixies with oozing eyes of molten copper. That's pretty flavorful right there. Third one is D4 blood mushrooms. Save against death if eaten. Failure equals mass intestinal bleeding followed by death. So don't eat the mushrooms. 4 is a bear carcass stitched together by golden threads. If worn, save against magic. On a failure, the wearer is hideously turned into an enraged bear. On success, the bear hide acts as +1 leather armor. I really like the bear hide, magic bear hide. I feel like the +1 level armor is kind of boring for what this thing could be. I remember, I forget who wrote these books about Merlin, stories about Merlin. I want to say it was like the grandson of the great Russian author Tolstoy was like a world-renowned Merlin expert. And he wrote these books, and one of the things that Merlin did, that I recall vividly because I just really liked it, was he took these animal skins and would wear them, and then, I guess kind of in druid wild shape fashion, would take on aspects of the animal. So I'd probably do something like that. If you, I mean, look, you get a chance to, you wear it, and maybe this happens every time, you turn into an enraged bear for some period of time. On the other hand, maybe on success you can grab some aspect of the bear. Maybe you don't get all of it, turn into a bear, but maybe you could have bear speed, bear claws, bear strength, make a bear call. I don't know. Plus one leather armor just seems a little bit meh for something that's otherwise really cool. Area 5, or if we roll a 5 rather, the Druid Belagor, an HD3 Druid, passes without trace through the undergrowth. I suppose that's some kind of encounter. I think it's just, I don't know, HD3 Druid. Isn't at that point just a level 3 Druid, right? I mean, look, we know that, but is that an OSE thing where they would, instead of putting, if you're using a player level, they would put their hit dice rather than their level? I don't know. I would probably just put Human Druid 3. The 3, and then the last one, the 3-horned black stag emerges, large herd animal with gore attack 3d4. The 3-horned black stags. There's only one of them. So that's Area 1. Area 2 is Caer Emrys itself, also the coastal hills. So the one thing with the forested hills is, I don't know if they're going to get into this, but they have some really interesting things in here, and I hope they get fleshed out somewhere. I want to know about the 3-horned black stag. I'd like to know about the Druid Belagor. What are they doing here? What do they want? Are there ways that he could fit into the adventure here of trying to pacify, to use the terms here, pacify the area? The bear carcass, was that Belagor's? Is that somebody else's? Is something going on here affecting these pixies, causing them to go blind? Like, I'd like some of these interconnected stuff. Maybe they'll be there, maybe they won't. There's some great things here, but I would like, if they don't do it, I feel like take that extra step, which is, I feel like, what was that other one we looked at? The Dragon of, I forget, that other module we looked at recently did a really good job of tying things together and having them all kind of interrelate. I don't know why I'm stumbling on the name of it, but we'll see if they do it. But I think a missed opportunity if they didn't do that. Okay, Caer Emrys in the coastal hills. Caer Emrys has a population of 116 people and a dozen or so buildings. Its defenses comprise the fort itself and a retinue of 4 retainers tied to Lady Morgan, who rules the fort. And then we can see the map for additional description of locations. Yes, we could, and we did see it. The fort guarded under the keep. The fort guarded under the keep. Okay, so all right. So it looks like this is just their, I guess, their treasure, their treasury. A little bit over 2,500 gold pieces, almost 4,000 silver pieces, and a little bit over 8,000 copper pieces. The trader's warehouse has a cache of 143 gold, 5,000 plus silver, and almost 800 copper. And then the trapper's cabin has a small purse with 33 gold, 54 silver, and 98 copper. Interesting they put the numbers here. So I guess if you wanted to go rogue, so to speak, you could, you have those numbers. I almost would have just put them on the, on the map, or put the descriptions here, so that, I don't have to flip back and forth. But at least we have those numbers, which I guess are helpful. Other than that, it's about it. 116 people, 4 retainers, and Lady Morgan. They don't say how many guards. It'd be nice to know how many guardsmen. Are we to say from all this that there are basically 4 guards? Those 4 retainers rather, are the entire guard company. There's just, it's hard to guard a whole anything with 4 people. Even with a wall, because you just, one person on each side of the wall? Not going to do it if there's anything serious coming. Maybe there's more, maybe that's it. Maybe whatever the danger stuff is doesn't come down to the coast. Hex 3 is Bogland. The bogs steam with warm mist and patches of ice. Tread carefully, for one fell slip can lead to drowning in the mire. Alright, we got a dangerous bog. Bronwyn, a level 5 elf, who is an outcast from the village of Bones, lives here in a fine stone building with a large mastiff called Gellert. So we got a fairly high-level elf, or at least a mid-level elf in the Boglands. I'm just going to zip to the map so I can get my sense of where that is. So that, we're going around the coast, basically. Oh, I think that must be her little house there. They don't mention what the chances are of slipping into the bog, if that's just for flavor or if they really mean to make some kind of save at some point. There's probably room here. You could throw in a quick mechanic or a reference to a mechanic. Hey, once per travel through this zone, roll, save. And if you're, I don't know, something. Because the one thing is, if you're traveling, in this case, you're traveling 6 mile hexes, you're traveling abstracted out. You're probably not going to, you imagine with the, I guess I should say, you imagine the amount of people in the party. Is someone going to drown without, you're not rushing, you're not running away from something, you're not in any kind of hurry, you're just navigating to navigate at your normal pace. If you're going through the bog, chances are if somebody does slip and falls in, you're going to be able to get them out again. The death part is probably off the table. Unless you mean to zoom this in like a random encounter and then there's something crazy in the bog that's really pulling somebody down. But if it works the way bogs operate, at least Hollywood bogs do, right? They're slowly going and they're raising their hand. Then they're slowly, and then you see the oatmeal kind of earth covering up, and then their fingers, and then someone's got time to, if they don't have a rope, they find a rope and they tie it around and they're able to do it, right? All that stuff is all bobbled in there. So if I was going to have this thing about, okay, it's come kind of slippery, then maybe I would say, give it an effect that affects the abstraction, because that, maybe you think, well, that's 30 seconds out of our walking day, so we just pick up the pace a little bit quicker. It probably doesn't, why even roll for it? But maybe it does something else, like you can get lost, or you can lose time, because of the fact that it's so slippery, is you go half is half speed, and then maybe everyone has to roll a save once per day in there, and then you lose some hit points or something if you fail your save, so that the stuff is reflected on the same scale that we are, because one person just kind of slipping and falling into the bog is probably not anything you even want to deal with when you're traveling on this higher, zoomed out level. In that case, the more important thing is, well, we're moving at half speed, so now instead of getting to where we thought of, we're only just barely going to get out of the bog, and goodness knows we don't want to spend the night in here because whatever's, going on in there. And then you have the elf who can potentially be helpful. Maybe you have a place to camp there. They haven't mentioned any rules or random encounters for the entire island, and certainly not for this hex. So we could just use whatever we have normally, or potentially maybe the suggestion is there aren't any. I'm not sure, but and this is where kind of I do think that maybe giving a little bit more detail would be a little bit helpful for saying, okay, here's kind of what's going on. Like, here's our, and maybe this is for OSE. They specifically mentioned OSE, so maybe we're just supposed to put OSE's rules where they haven't put something in its place. That might have been something I wouldn't have mind being spelled out. Say, hey, roll for encounters every such and such in these hexes or in all the hexes, or if you don't see a particular set of encounters, then use random encounters, or if you don't see any encounters, then it's empty and don't do anything. But we have some bogland, and we've got Bronwyn the elf, and like I mentioned before, and we'll see later on if it's explained anywhere, if they have anything to offer. We do know they're an outcast from a village that we haven't seen yet, so there's a village of bones somewhere. I can see, obviously, it's in the next hex. This is a night, wouldn't have been a bad spot to maybe put in a little bit of, do they relate? We've got Belagor. How does Bronwyn relate to Belagor, if at all? We don't know. Looks like I can see already that Belagor is going to show up in the Village of Bones, so we'll get to see about that. that might have been something nice to call out in that encounter to know to reference whatever information's in the Village of Bones, or to have like a, here's my cast of characters. But let's see. Maybe we'll get a little bit more of what's going on between Belagor and Bronwyn. This now is Hex 4 as we're continuing along the coast. We get to the Village of Bones. Skulls dripping blood ward the path. Twisted spires of elegantly spun bone form this otherworldly settlement of the Elder Folk. Is this to mean elves, or is elves Elder Folk? Belagor, again hit die 3 druid, last of their line, watches over the village and isle. Last of their line. So is he the last of the Elder Folk? It doesn't say if Belagor is what Belagor is. She's an elf. We know that for sure. Is he, and maybe because it's OSE, which like BX, I think by default is racist class, and so they can't say he's an elf druid. He's got a pick, so he's a druid, but he's an elf. Or is he a human that's watching over the settlement of the Elder Folk? I'm not sure. Belagor's task is to prevent anyone from discovering the dragons under the mountain whilst drawing as little suspicion as possible. He hopes fear, superstition, and the denizens of the isle itself will be enough. He will attack directly with his faithful if the seal is threatened. So here's more things we don't know about yet, because we don't know about seals. And we don't know... Okay, so we're about to get to the faithful. And so I guess it's news to us that there are dragons under the mountain. And I see plural here, dragons. Is that to say there's more than one? Is one not enough? I don't know, but we got more than one. Potentially. 17 of the Faithful of Belagor, which are all 2 hit die elves, guard the village and surrounding wilds with bows and magic. The forest near the village grows a wide variety of mushrooms that can be used in potions, so I'm guessing they're not all blood mushrooms. So I would like a little bit... Oh, let's move to the next page. Okay, so... we get a little bit about Belagor. We don't know why Bronwyn is an outcast. That might be nice to know. She presumably was one of the Faithful. She's a lot higher level than the Faithful. They're only level 2 elves. She's a level 5 elf. Not sure when she made that jump, but she decided, I'm had enough of you, Belagor, and you, Faithful of Belagor. We don't know why. It'd be nice to know why. He has a very clear motivation. Is there's dragons below the mountains, and he's just trying to prevent people from discovering them. The reason, I'm guessing, maybe they're asleep and this will wake them up, or maybe they're trapped and this would free them. It might be nice to know a little bit more about, okay, what's the danger about the dragons under the mountain. Maybe we'll get there, but since we're reading about Belagor here, it might be nice to know. He's trying to do it on the down low. He's not trying to cause a panic or to cause a lot of suspicion, because presumably there's enough people around that potentially he could, excuse me, he could be, assaulted or killed, right? If the island got too much, if there was too much in the island that said, oh my gosh, this guy, he's a troublemaker, they would just take care of him. So they don't want to take care of him. So he's doing that. And he's got 17 of his closest friends who are there, which is more than the entirety of people guarding the fort, which is interesting. So you have 17 of the faithful guarding the village and the surrounding wilds, but only 4 retainers guarding the fort. That seems a little bit off. I don't know. I have to maybe think about that a bit. Now we get to the Mountain Hex. Let me just zoom forward and let's take a look again. So now we're at the north, the top of the island. If we're looking at it north to south, we're at the north end. We got a high peak. Hex 5, the mountain. The ancients pooled their riches to lure the 2 warring dragons of fire and ice to this secluded peak where they would be trapped underground and forced to slumber eternally. They dug a great shaft, placed a magical stone seal to protect it, and filled it with water to make an artificial lake. Okay, this is it. Now we're talking. So there are 2 dragons, one of fire and one of ice, that were lured here and then trapped and made to go to sleep. I'm not sure what makes... I wonder what makes dragons go to sleep. That might be interesting to know. or if it's just if they can't eat or anything, they don't die. They just go into some kind of slumber. So I don't know if this is they put these as gave these numbers. I'm not sure why. And they go 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they skip 3. Or are these the areas here? But they're not numbered on their map. So I guess this is kind of a map, but it's not specifically numbered. It would be nice to number it. So 1, the lake itself, 50 feet deep, 30 feet wide. At the bottom is an ancient stone seal. If the seal is broken, the lake will drain, leaving the shaft beneath it. The seal can be broken with Dispel magic. Okay, so really anybody can dispel this thing, if you can get to the bottom of the lake and cast your spell. The shaft is 400 feet deep, muddy earth walls with many handholds. So definitely able to climb, but man, that's 400 feet. That's, you fall from the top, you're toast. There's a mile-long tunnel, walls wreathed with coils of molten copper coated with frost. Wafts of warm air followed by cold air alternate as the dragons exhale. Then we have 2 secret areas that lead off one direction. Let's see. One to the mines and one to the Barrows. These are 2 areas we haven't seen yet. The other direction leads to the 2 dragons. We have one dragon, which is Lud, and the other one is Leffels. Or I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it again. I'm guessing that's Welsh. Lefflis. Somebody who has better. Oh, I apologize again for the butchery. A red dragon and a white dragon. If somebody knows the pronunciations for those, please let me know. Both dragons have been put to slumber and have a 90% chance to be sleeping. They sit upon a vast mound of treasure each, type H. If they realize the seal is broken, they will flee their earthen prison and begin a new reign of terror upon the Isle and beyond. So we would like them we would like them to stay asleep. Now nothing says molten copper covered in frost. I don't know what to do with that. I think what I would do is just play up the fact that you have the 2 interactions of 2 dragons. One that is a fire dragon, one's an ice frost dragon, and that the interaction of their very presences is causing this effect with potentially that I would guess there were veins of copper that were running on the walls of that passage, and they become molten and then also freezing, and they're doing this whole freeze, whatever. Melting, freezing, kind of like that. That's how I would do it. Now I'd play out the fact that it's weird and definitely kind of hyper magical, and then you're hearing the breathing of the dragons, and maybe you're alternating. One breath gives you cold air and you frost on your nose and everything's freezing, and then another breath of seriously maybe even hot, really hot air, and that causes everything to kind of go. I know that it doesn't totally make sense with the copper, because I'm guessing that the melting point of copper is probably a lot higher than it would be for people to die from heat exposure, but maybe it was melted long ago and it's not literally remelting, but that it had been melted back in time when the dragons were first put here, and then now it's just a matter of it freezing and unfreezing. That would kind of be my take. Hex 6, Tower and Mines in the Foothills. So we've kind of come around. We've gone from sort of southwest around the coast. We hit the very north. Now we're going south again, back on the west side of the island. This is Hex 6, Towers and Mines in the Foothills. We have a nice map of a tower here. This ruined tower was built by the Old Empire as part of a failed attempt to claim the mine. A band of 5 adventurers recently came here to reclaim it for the fort. Only Gaffid remains alive, captured by the ogres. Ooh, so we have ogres. Looks like we have ogres, potentially ghosts. A lot going on here. Okay, so the areas. Each one's just very simple. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels. We just get one simple little description for each level. Starting with the basement. A bloated ochre jelly fills the area beneath the trapdoor. It is filled up with 483 pieces of raw copper ore. Each ore weighs 10 pounds and is worth 5 silver each. 2 skeletal corpses lie in the room, consumed by the creature. So we've got some, I guess it must be copper that they were mining, because we're definitely getting clear indications of a lot of copper. We had melting copper eyes. We had melted copper veins. We got a lot of copper going on. Ground floor. The entrance door is heavy. Its hinges are damaged and it easily opens. A secret trapdoor under the stairs leads to the basement. The trapdoor is sealed shut by the ochre jelly beneath. The trapdoor is sealed shut by the ochre jelly beneath. So is it a trap? Is it just the door to the basement and you can't get in because there's an ochre jelly? Does it open out or down? I'm guessing it opens up. So how did I'm not sure. It doesn't totally make sense to me. I feel like I'm missing something. Sealed shut by the ochre jelly beneath. Does the ochre jelly fill it? Floor to ceiling? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Tower level 1. The room is strewn with rubble and ruin. The ceiling is unstable beyond the door to the south of the room. There's a 1 in 6 chance of falling debris as it's opened. Behind is a locked chest containing 295 gold pieces, 1,000 silver pieces, and 10 refined copper trade bars worth 5 gold pieces each and weighing 5 pounds. So I do like the fact they're building up this theme of copper mining. So we got, there's copper there, copper from the eyes. Now we get, just rough copper ore, but now we're also seeing, okay, look, you can make these into trade bars, and those trade bars are worth money, so we can kind of get a sense of the processes here, right? Okay, copper is the big metal here, you're getting it out of the mountains, and then you see is refining it, and then you could trade it, and of course, as you are refining it, it gets worth more, so the raw ore is worth less than the bars. 1 in 6 chance of falling debris as the door is opened. Where's that door? I guess that's right there. Now, you could just take this treasure and run, I suppose. I mean, it's interesting. The treasure is basically unprotected. The ochre jelly, judging by this, the trapdoor is underneath the stairs. There's really no reason to go there. Hey, run up, get some treasure. And run back down again. Goodbye! We'll see. So on the second floor of the tower, which is the third floor... Wait a minute. Yeah, let's call it level 2. 3 ogres, Digrot, Wogut, and Krazor, are using this area as a lair. The ogres have Gilfrid, the innkeeper's son and last survivor of the adventuring band, as prisoner. They hope to ransom him to the fort. Aha. Well, you see, here's where it would have been nice to have a little bit more information on the Innkeeper, because now we do have this connection. But we don't get that anywhere. We don't get that in any of the descriptions. But I'd like to know now, okay, who's the Innkeeper? If we show up at the inn when we're at the fort, does the Innkeeper try to say, hey, my son went out looking with an adventuring party, he hasn't come back, can you please look out for him? Last I heard, they were going around to the old tower. And the adventurers say, oh, where's the old tower? Oh, I'm glad you asked. The old tower is in the northeast area. It's on the path to the mountains. Whatever directions. And now they have either, if that's the first place they go, maybe that ends up being their initial mission, or it's something they do in addition to other things. But there you've got those linkages. So they have it here, but they didn't, as far as I can tell, make that connection. And I'm not sure why they didn't, but it's here. So we have the 3 ogres and the kid, and then now that actually almost even makes more sense why they list what money is in the inn, because even if you don't decide to steal it all, this kind of gives the upper ends of what the innkeeper can try to bargain, either with the adventurers or the ogres, I suppose, bargain for his son's release. And above them, there's a woman's body lies in the center of this room, gaunt and fleshless. 2 ancient specters haunt the area. So there we have 2 specters. And then the top of the tower, you get a fantastic view of the island. You can see every area in fair detail from here. So as far as treasure, the best treasure, other than bringing the kid back to the Innkeeper is on that floor before you even get to anything. So that's kind of interesting, just in terms of the placement. I might have moved this treasure up to the 3rd floor and put some gardens there, but that's just interesting. It's just kind of an interesting way of doing it. Hey, you get here, you don't want to go down, but going down, I'm not even sure why that down area is there. There's no indication here that the excuse me, that anyone's going to open up that trap door or push you in or do anything. And we do have some other things here, so let me read these other notes. Collapsed mine shaft. The mine entrance is blocked entirely by rubble and must be excavated by a digging team. A wight stands and guards the entrance eternally. So where is that? So I guess that's just outside this tower. It's just the mine shaft. The shaft descends 90 feet. There are 4 obvious tunnels which have been partially excavated down the shaft. A secret tunnel leads to one of the Barrows in Hex 7. A further secret tunnel leads to the tunnel beneath the lake in Hex 5. Okay, so this is separate than the tower itself. So getting back to the tower, the layout's kind of interesting because I feel like that basement is totally superfluous. I'm not sure who's going to go down there or why. Are ochre jellies transparent? I don't think so. So I feel like you'd open up that trap door and you just see what, like a whole, I don't know what color it is, just kind of muckety muck. I'm not sure. And there's you're not really rewarded much by going down there anyway, and you could easily not see it at all unless you're really looking. Then you go up and the treasure chest is just right there. Okay, treasure just behind that door. Yeah, you can get some debris could fall on you, but yeah, that's about it. It'd be nice to say, hey, I mean, I guess you just have to, as the GM, you'll have to just say, look, if you do, the important part about the debris, maybe you roll some damage, and that could be bad, but it's really the fact that you have the 3 ogres up here who are going to hear you, and I have to imagine they're going to come down and check, and then that could be bad, because then you could all be bundled up in this small room somewhere, and Lincoln says an ochre color. Yeah, I know. I you caught me. I made that goof. As soon as I said color, I was like, oh yeah, it's ochre. And I just thought I would let it slide, but of course Lincoln catches me. Yes, it would be ochre in color. Yep. Caught me in my foolery as I'm goofed. This is the lovely part of streaming, when you open your mouth and you say something, and you're like, yep, that was really stupid, but I just said it. And I'd say it again. Okay, so then we have these other parts that are separate from the tower. So it's just an interesting kind of way of laying it out. I think what I might have done is, you got this wonderful tower here. Maybe I would link the tower and the shaft. Make it so this thing is down here, and if you can get through the ochre jelly, your reward is that it opens up the shaft area. Maybe you don't even need the white. The ochre jelly is enough. Or maybe you have the white somewhere else, if you want to have multiple guards. I kind of like that a little bit better, but, you guys tell me. That's the tower and mines in the foothills. I'm just going to zoom down. And 7 is that center one. So we came around the horn. Now we head to the center, which is the Barrows. A circle of stones dominates this area. There are 23 earthen barrows within and around the circle. 3 have obvious open stone entrances. The rest must be excavated to be entered. When a barrow is entered, 2d6 roll below. Okay, so we're going to, I think that meant to be maybe reverse the order there. Roll 2d6. So we might find a wraith wreathed in ice, a cursed dragon idol carved of bone. Ooh, save against death or a hand falls off from frostbite. That's pretty nasty. A cursed dragon idol carved of red copper, save against magic on touch or suffer permanent blindness as eyes melt. Well, that would explain the eyes melting copper thing that we saw before. Might get a barrel white wreathed in flame or a barrel white wreathed in ice. Once empty, we might get one of those hidden tunnels, or I guess one hidden tunnel to the mine and the other hidden tunnel to the lake, or under the lake. There's a treasure chest in one. It's got 1,000 gold pieces, an amber gem worth about 100 gold pieces, and a ruby gem that's worth 500 gold pieces. Treasure chest containing a pearl necklace, 700 gold pieces, 3,000 plus gold pieces, and a scroll of protection from dragons. And then a statue of an ancient, or just an ancient, I don't know what that is, ancient somebody, Holds aloft a magical sword wreathed in golden ichor. +1 sword. When a dragon is struck with the blade, it must save against death. On a failure, the dragon dies and turns to gold. The sword turns to mundane lead. Wow, that is pretty strong. Though it's a one use, I like that. It has a very specific purpose. Just a +1 sword until you hit a dragon with it. Dragon with it, you might die immediately and turn to gold, but then the sword just turns to lead and is useless. Walking the Path says, Wraith wreathed in ice. An interesting way to say that. Yes, I like it a lot. The language is very nice. Also, he says, one shot a dragon. Yep, potentially. But that's all you get. You get one hit, one save, one shot. But that's it. Because I'm presuming that the sword turns to lead regardless. Or am I to believe that the sword only turns to lead if it's successful? I don't know. That'd be an interesting call by the GM, whether you would say the effect was unleashed. Does the lead part have to do with the whether it works or not, or just that you unleash the power? I think if you're the player, you kind of hope, please let it be when I successfully unleash the power and not when it fails, because now I have a dragon who's very angry at me, and all I'm holding is this heavy, useless thing that used to be a sword. Oh, okay, so now we get some tables. All right. See, this stuff I kind of feel like should have been in the front. So we're getting some more tables and things. Walking the Path says, I would say unleashed, not upon success. All right, that's kind of how I'm leaning, but that's, I can see people saying it's a little bit mean, but hey, right? You use your wand of fireballs, you expend a charge, even if your fireball, right? Even if they dodge the fireball or save or do whatever, right? So definitely different ways to do it. Okay, so now we're getting some more information on the major players. I would have liked, I think this would have been something that I think would have been better served to be up front, and I would also, I think, could use some better formatting, because it's got this kind of alternate row shading, like they're all tables, but the stuff for the NPCs are not tables. They're characteristics, sort of stat stuff. But first we have some rumor tables, or a rumor table, which we can roll once for each character. So they might learn that a magical seal sits under the lake. In the mountains, the Bog Witch can break it. Who is the Bog Witch? Is that Bronwyn? Okay, so see here they say Bronwyn, they just call her an elf, but here they call her Bronwyn the Bog Witch. She's a Bog Witch. Put that in the encounter. You got to really repeat that. She's Bronwyn the Bog Witch. Bronwyn the Bog Witch. Don't call her Bronwyn, parentheses, elf. And then it's only later on when I might realize later, oh, she's a Bog Witch. I mean, I was asking before, why? What has she been doing since? What's her goals and stuff? So please call out, she's the Bog Witch. Maybe even put a little thing like, hey, go see her specific page or area of the page for more about her Bog Witchiness. Okay, we have a cursed idol of bone that brings only frostbitten agony. Yeah, we know that one's true. The villagers beyond the river are known to eat men. I don't know if we know that. Ogres reside in the tower. The villagers beyond the river worship skulls and bones. Do not enter the circle of stones in the forest. Bronwyn the witch has a soft spot for dogs. An ancient guardian watches over the mines eternally. A magical sword wreathed in golden ichor sleeps in the Barrows. I'm not sure what wreathed in golden ichor, because I think of ichor as kind of like blood, but wreathed in kind of golden blood. I mean, it's definitely interesting. I wonder if either I'm misunderstanding or that's... But I think for the rumor, I'd just say a magical sword sleeps in the Barrows. I mean, that's probably enough. The extra wreathed in golden ichor, I don't know that we need that for the rumor. Many secret paths lead from the Barrows to under the mountains. A great fire-breathing beast lives under the mountains. So I think most of those are at least, right, mostly true. We do have a wilderness encounter table. 1 in 6 chance, once per day, once per night, once upon entering a new hex. And the kind of encounters we can get here are a Wraith wreathed in Dragonfire. They like wreathing things here. A lot of things being wreathed in different things. Wraith wreathed in Dragonfire. D3 Frost Whites, with Frostbitten Hands. D4 Specters of Ancient Elves. 2D4 Copper Pixies. Those are really spooky. 2D6 Belagor's Faithful. 3D10 Herd Animals. 1d4 plus 4 basic adventures from outside the Isle. It's a nice touch. D3 Bog Ogres. Belagor with a handful of his faithful. 3d6 Frost Sprites. And then the Frenzied Hunt. Karaticus, an HD 5 elf leading D6 Fire Whites and D6 Ice Whites upon black 3 antlered riding stags. So there we get the 3 antlered riding stags. This is the first and only place I think we've seen Karaticus, so I don't know otherwise where they are, or is this something like they've come from another plane and they just ride through? Not sure, but so we get some encounters. It might be nice to have them for different hexes, because some of these seem appropriate for certain hexes. But it's a small island, so maybe they're just traveling around. It'd be nice to have some note about bog ogres in the bog. Maybe there's a lair for the bog ogres that could have some treasure in it, seeing as there are bog ogres around. And given the name, I presume that they, unless these are the ogres that are living in the tower, in which case I would want to connect them. If these are just separate bog ogres, then I might want to say, hey, their lair is somewhere in the bog. If you can find it, it's treasure type, blah, blah. Those are wilderness encounters. Then we have some more stuff for the Itchy Hole Tavern. Locals and folk the owner likes are charged half price. Roll a d6 to see who's down the pub. I like that. So you can see who's in there. It might be a quiet night. There might be a band of adventurers heading somewhere. It might be a traveling merchant. There might be a band of dwarves. Might be a retinue of soldiers. Or Lady Morgan might be in there. So I like that. I always like these things of, hey, you walk in the tavern at any given time. Let's roll to see if any people of note are in there. And presumably it's not noted, but I would definitely allow you to try to recruit or team up with some band of adventurers. Get a bigger party. I don't think we have any indication of what the level is for this, but some of the encounters seem kind of tough, so I'm guessing this is not I wouldn't want to throw level 1 folks in there. And here we have some more information on the shrine. Shrine to Lear, dead god of the seas. Pray to the dead god, roll a d4 per 100 gold pieces in offerings. Once per month, any other result equals calm. So we're going to roll a d4 per 100 gold pieces in offerings. I see. So, okay. Per 100 gold pieces in offerings. All right. Am I reading this that you would, if I would decide to throw down 1,000 gold pieces, I'm rolling 10d4? Does that sound right? I feel like that's what they're saying. But it seems like from these results, I wouldn't want to do that. So, if you roll a 3, so I guess if you roll a 1 or a 2, just nothing happens, calm. If you roll 3, a grave error in the rites, the sea god rises and stops your heart from beating, you die. So you roll 3, you're dead. If you roll 5, so 4 is 1, 2, 4 is calm. If you roll 5, which means that you had to have at least rolled 2d4, so you had to have given 200 gold pieces in offerings. You roll 5. Cursed favor the dead god. For the next 2d6 days, you can only breathe seawater. I mean, if there were some stuff under there to see, that would be kind of cool. If it pertained to the lake, that might be kind of cool. If they could get you there. Otherwise, you're basically down for some amount of downtime. If you roll a 7, so 6 is calm. If you roll a 7, an acolyte rises from the depths and joins you. Okay, cool. And then 8, 9, 10, nothing, or calm. If you roll an 11, there's a great rumbling from the mountains, the seal is broken, and the lake drained. Which you probably don't want. Definitely would piss off Belagor. This one's interesting, because I could see as a player, if I'm flush, and I want to really get something good. I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna get something good. I put a whole bunch of dice in there to roll. I'm going to 10,000, right? I'm going to give 1,000, so I'm going to get 10 of these bad boys. I'm going to roll them. Anything over 11 is just nothing, I presume. And then, I mean, it's not even possible. Well, if you get yeah, I mean, you can't even get, if you got a 1 on everything, you'd get 10, which would be calm. Chances are you're not even getting 11. So maybe I put some kind of max so that you're playing in there. Maybe I would say 300. Either make the numbers higher and just say, hey, there's just a max. Maybe you have to put the donation somewhere else so that someone can actually say to you, hey, we're only taking so much. I don't know. It's kind of cool, but you're not. I presume that these effects are not player facing, so I'd want to balance that with the players thinking like, oh, so the more like a lottery or something, the more money I throw at them, the better my chances are of getting something good. And it's not really. I mean, only one of them. I mean, I suppose if the seal is broken, I guess that's good if all you care about, if you just want to get down to those dragons, I guess. Otherwise, only 2 of the options are good, which, yeah, I guess it's half of the ones listed. The other ones are just, I don't know. I think I would just want to figure out a way to work that a little bit more, or have it so that there's some kind of NPC they can interact with, so that the NPC can say, hey, hold on, we're not taking that much, or you can, do whatever, some way to manage that. Let's see, so there's a potions table. Where do the potions enter in? There's a potion of eyes, grants an additional eye. Potion of warm blood, grants resistance to cold. There's a potion of thickened bones. Strengthens the imbibers' bones and doubles their size. Is that good? I don't know. I mean, depending on the context of doubling your bone size, that sounds like it could be really have some really funky results. Potion of Undeath. You become undead for the duration. You can communicate with other undead creatures. Oh, so they only last d6 plus 6 turns. It'd be nice to know what these are supposed to do. Resistance to cold, fairly obvious. Grants an additional eye, not so obvious. Strengthens the imbiber's bones, again, not that obvious what that does. Becoming undead. You can communicate with other undead creatures, which actually would be really helpful in some of those spots if you could talk to the Wraith or talk to somebody. The Spectres, maybe. But I don't know where we're actually supposed to get those from, so I'm not sure about that. Maybe it says so. Okay, so that's all for those things. Now we get to the NPCs. So about Lady Morgan, we have a description. Her role is a commander of the fort. She's a commander and vassal to, the emperor, whoever that person is. These are the parts I like. So here they're showing what she wants. She's tasked by the Empire with clearing the tower, guarding the mine, securing the area, and then excavating the abandoned mine. They're offering 1,000 gold pieces for an adventuring band to clear out the tower, which is in Hex 6. And I like that this time they did put an indication of where we should be looking in this little module for where that section is. Okay, it's in Hex 6. That tells me a lot. And secure the area ready for the mine to be excavated. She has 4 retainers, Owain, Meredith, Garrod, and Karis, who are HD1 fighters. She can provide a map of the Isle. I still say that's not nearly enough people to reasonably guard this fort. I think she should have some just mercenary level 0 guard types. And we could say, hey, they're not going to lead the fort, they're not going to do this, but I feel like 4 people plus her 5 can't actually. You could probably barely guard the inner keep, maybe, with that many. If no one's holding the door and you put them all in the arrow slots, and yeah, you could probably put one person guarding each side and do that for a bit, but not a whole fort. You got to have more people than that. And hey, I mean, Belagor's got 17 men by himself. Let's see, Arden. Have we heard? I don't think we've seen Arden. Oh, there's a misspelling here. I've seen a couple of misspellings, but they must have changed the way they spelled Lear the Dead God, because here it's L-I-R. All the other places I've seen it's L-L-Y-R. So, let's see. Priest of Lear the Dead God of the Sea leads the fort in monthly sacrifice to the sea under the full moon. Here we go. What do they want? They are seeking a new disciple to the order since Tilly left. We don't know who Tilly is, but we will. knows Bronwyn, the witch who lives in the swamp, has many powerful oceans to offer. Okay, so this is where we can get potions, but I don't. So I guess she's hanging out by the shrine. It would be nice to say where her building is. Does she live at the shrine or the quarters there? It'd be nice to know about, because it seems like this is a pretty important person. This is also why I'd like to have this in the front of the book. Make the town your first hex that you're describing. Put all these people. Here are they in the town, and then we can really see all these interactions, because now I'm getting at the end, and it means that if I haven't prepped it enough, I'm not going to get the right reminders. So I think that's what I want as a GM with the materials is, sure, if I'm prepping it and I have all the time in the world to prep it, yes, I will have read it multiple times. I would have run through, I would have seen this stuff, I would have made my own notes, and I would have said, okay, this is here, and I could write that all down and great, have it. On the other hand, what if I show it to my friend's house? Or my friend some friends show up at my house, and they say, hey, we'd love to play a game. And I'm like, I don't have anything. Oh, let me pull this out and play it. In that sense, this stuff feels like it's a little bit hidden, and it doesn't need to be. Because all this stuff is really great. I just wish it was put in a better spot for me to get a hold of it when I think I would need it. So at least calling out in different areas, hey, go check their write-up in the back of the book for this or that. Put a little note in there. I know maybe they're trying to work on a specific page count or whatever else, but I prefer having it a little bit longer, but having all this information and having it laid out than having it so condensed that it's hard to tell that from the other. Okay, so that's the cleric. Knows Bronwyn also can cast any level 1 cleric spell for 50 gold. Also have 3 potions of healing that they're willing to sell. Now we get to Tavern Master Gilfrid. Runs the Itchy Hole, wants retirement, but their son Gaffid fancied themselves an adventurer. A week ago they went to the tower and have yet to return. Knows they're a source of many rumors on the island. I'm surprised for this Tavern Master they didn't literally put in will offer a reward to the adventurers for finding and rescuing or showing what happened to his son. I think that's an obvious adventure hook, and I don't know why they don't have that in here. It's not prominent. Now on to Bronwyn. She's an outcast from the Village of Bones, which we saw before. She lives in seclusion and sells her potions to locals. She knows the dragons under the lake and their vast treasure. She wants to oust the Empire with the aid of a dragon. She is opposed to the methods of trickery Belgor the Druid employs. She wants to craft a potion of control dragon. For the potion, she needs a bundle of glimmering flat-cap mushrooms and frost-bitten whitecaps. These grow in the forest in Hex 4. I don't think these were mentioned in Hex 4, though. I would want this called out. And this is good stuff. And I would also want that, hey, she's willing to hire the party to do something different. So we have these forces that are kind of arraying at kind of cross purposes. I just wish they would highlight that more. So if we have Belagor over here who wants to make sure the dragons stay hidden, now we have Bronwyn and they're antagonistic. Now as a GM, I have a lot more stuff to play with, and I think that they could play that up more, especially if they both have kind of contact. So obviously Arden knows Bronwyn, that they're in cahoots a bit. Maybe Arden buys spells and whatnot. So who does Belagor know? Is Belagor really so secret? Obviously Bronwyn knows who he is. Maybe someone else knows who he is, and how can we work that into stuff that the party can play with? Okay, Bronwyn has a random potion from the potions table. She can brew potions on request. It takes a week. She's stocked with potions of healing, which she sells for 250 gold pieces, so less than Arden. And she has a scroll of Dispel Magic that can break the seal under the lake. So I kind of think we had that. What was that thing that made you drink under, or only breathe underwater? Oh, from the shrine. You could. So depending on how you're working these out, you could try to game these things. But unfortunately, the cursed favor that the god lets you breathe seawater. I'm guessing seawater. I wish they just said water. I suppose I could rule water, because that would tie into the lake. Oh, Bronwyn has a scroll or whatever to scroll dispel magic. Too bad you can't read a spell underwater. I can if I get the cursed favor, but then that activates immediately, and then I'm gonna drown in air before I get to the lake. And oh, by the way, it's seawater, so it doesn't even work. So I would probably change that to water, and maybe something that I can turn on at some point over the next 2d6 days. I know it's supposed to be cursed, but this is one of those things I wish was a little bit different, because it adds another tool to how you want to deal with this problem, but then it doesn't work. Whereas if you just twist it a little bit, it'll work. You can do it. So I would make that twist. Tilly maintains the fishing dock and trades in various general goods. Knows of a precious dragon idol hidden under the Barrows. She will pay 600 gold pieces for it. She wants to leave the Isle for greater horizons. And what does she knows? She sells common adventuring gear at a 20% markup. There's a 1 in 6 chance she has more unique items on request. I do like that, having a chance for something more unique, and I like the fact that it tells you how much you should mark it up. And then Tordrum the Trapper, who is a 2-hit die dwarf. He's the village hunter and trapper. Wants the head of the 3-antlered black stag who attacked them in the forest, which we can find there. Knows they can offer their services as a guide through the forest and swamp. Excellent. But what does that do for you as the party? Does it prevent encounters? We don't know. It might be nice to know what that means in terms of, if you have the guide, then you avoid this, that, or the other. Has 2 dogs, Odin and Undrick, and has meat rations, I guess. Fair enough. And then we get to it. All right, that was the Isle of Glaslyn. The Isle of Glaslyn. On the front of the box, a Hexcrawl adventure for OSE by, and I apologize yet again for the butchery, Panayotis Linus or Lines, and Aled Lawler. I like it a lot. It's a nice little adventure. I think the one thing I would say, and I've pretty much been stressing this, is I think it could be organized in a way to highlight some of the connectivity, because yes, it is like a little mini Hexcrawl, which is cool. It's on this little island, which is nice. We have a different cast of characters, but I think they could do more to, one, put the information where you could really, I think it would be more useful. At least I think it would be more useful. Someone else might feel differently. Format it maybe a little bit, that kind of, the way they've got it formatted with the alternate row shading type approach works fine for tables and things like that. Other things they're using for, to me, it doesn't work, and it doesn't help call out different bits of the information. Also, I think they could maybe do a better job of highlighting some of the connectivity. Hey, these are the way these things really make the connections that are there. Some of them they call out, but they're not consistent in where they call it out. Call it out everywhere. Call it out so that we really see the importance of it. And then maybe feed into that a little bit more, because we have some different people who want different things, but they don't feel that connected to each other. Make those connecting lines darker. Put them more into I would say, active conflict with each other, so the party can come in and really get a feel for all these different things going on. I think there are a couple places where there's interesting strategies that I could see emerging, but they're kind of undermined. Like, you can only the cursed favor lets you breathe water. Oh, great, because that means if we get to the lake, we could use that to go down to cast detect magic. But no, it only works in seawater. And oh, by the way, you're going to start breathing it now. So there's no way you're going to be able to get to the lake, because the lake is inland. I mean, if it's something you could swim around the island and get there, then you could say, okay, we could do that. But no, you can't. So it's probably, you think of that approach, you think, well, that's not a really great way to do that, because then a big pit opens up beneath you and you're going to fall 400 feet. But still, it's something to try. And it's just kind of undermined by just that a couple of things there. So I think you could maybe change it up a little bit. Make some of that information down. Use some of the formatting, bold it up, really make those connections better. But the bones and everything is there. I say having a lot of fun. I'm not sure what level this would be for, but I'm guessing kind of mid, at least not levels 1 to 3. I would guess at least have a few levels under your belt. Hey, War Bunny, hello. Thanks for joining. You're coming in at the tail end, but feel free to hop back to the start. Get that? Hear that? Hop, War Bunny, hop, and check out the rest. I'm just kind of finishing off my thoughts. But I really like the bones. It is kind of a true Hexcrawl. I think if you're looking for something to run OSE, it's a little bit different. It's nice. It's very well compacted. You could throw this island anywhere. You can replace, there's a couple of shout-outs or call-outs to an empire, but you can obviously replace that with your whatever kingdom in your own world or political unit fits. That was the Isle of Glaslyn. Hey, look, they gave it away for free on on the buy nothing day, on otherwise known as Black Friday. So really appreciate that. It's very generous. But I think I would pay money for this. I think it's worth money. I don't know what they have it on print and PDF. I only have the PDF, obviously. If I get a chance to get a hold of a print version, I can maybe I'll do an update with how it looks. But very nice, fairly clean. All right, so no, I mean, clean in terms of design. Like I said, I feel like there's a couple ways they could tweak the design to make it a little bit, do some more clarity and stuff. But otherwise, easy to read, not too long, has pretty much everything you need. You'll definitely get more mileage out of it if you prep it, just so you can make up for the stuff that it's missing. Walking the Path says $7.99 PDF. There you go. I think it's in pounds too, so unfortunately that might hurt a bit more if you're on my side of the pond. I don't know if they offer more sales or anything like that, but that's it. The Isle of Glaslyn. I will hopefully be back tomorrow. Before you guys trail out of here, if you can give a thumbs up to the stream, I'd appreciate it. War Bunny says, would go great with the Graventon Guild Hexes. I haven't even seen that. I'll have to check that out. Graventon Guild Hexes. I will look that up after the stream. I'm not aware. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Cheers. Game on, and I will talk to you later.